Hey, y'all want to talk about apprenticeships? Let's talk about apprenticeships.
There are a lot of different kinds of apprenticeships. There is no rule book about how an apprenticeship is supposed to go. There's lots of myth and lore, but there's no rule book. I've talked a lot about what I think an apprenticeship should be, but I'm going to tell you guys what my apprenticeship was. I was on active duty in the U.S. Navy when I got into tattooing. I was hanging out in a shop, drawing, waiting for the second session on my chest tattoo, which is now getting covered up. And the owner walked up to me and said, "Hey, kid, I like the way you draw. You ever think about learning how to tattoo?" And I said, "Fuck yeah, dude." Now, for the rest of my time at this particular duty station that I was at, it was a training command. I would get out of school, I would hop on my motorcycle, rain or shine, and go to the tattoo shop. And I'd sit on that light table and I would trace out stencils. I would clean needles. This was back in the clean the needles day. And I loved hanging out at the tattoo shop. It was fucking cool. I didn't want to do anything else but just hang out at the tattoo shop. And I learned a lot. This first half of my apprenticeship taught me kind of the foundations of what it meant to be a shop hang around and to help. But I didn't learn shit about tattooing. I watched, but they didn't tell me shit. Now you got to keep in mind I was only at this place for about 6 months, and I spent about 5 of that hanging out at the tattoo shop. And something that I didn't really understand at the time, and most people, because this happened to a lot of sailors that would roll through there, is that the thing that the owner would do is he would find sailors that were there on a training status that were going to be gone in 6 months, offer them an apprenticeship, and he would get a lot of free work out of those guys. They'd answer his phone, they'd mop his floor, they'd clean his shit, they'd do his sterilization, and they would be loyal soldiers if there was any problem. So they would hang out, they would serve their purpose, they'd enjoy their time, and then they'd fuck off. There was only one other guy that I hung out there with that actually started tattooing. He was the first guy that taught me how to shade with a blending stump. Cool dude. But I believe he was actually stationed there. So he was there for long enough to actually finish an apprenticeship. Most of us didn't even really get through the get to know you phase, which is the first 6 months. Now, when I got to my next duty station, there was a tattoo shop directly across from the main gate. And I walked in there with my art portfolio, and I introduced myself, and I shook their hands, and I said, "I want to learn how to tattoo. I don't care what I have to do, but I'll do whatever it takes to be a tattoo artist." Lucky enough, these guys didn't have an apprentice, so they took me on. They gave me a try. Everything was conditional. I could be shit canned at any time. There was no real commitment other than I had to commit to these guys. I was counter person. I was the janitor. I was the sterilization technician. I was the needle manufacturer. I may have, allegedly, been accessory to several illegalities on which the statute of limitations has expired. I was the chauffeur in the 1981 Cadillac limousine that the guys bought so I could drive them around while they smoked weed in the back. And it was glorious. The day I finished my apprenticeship, I drove that down to Tattoo Tour in San Francisco, nonstop, and I loved every fucking minute of it. My needles were so good, they paid me $1 a needle. I drank a lot of beer on those needles. But when I started tattooing, and I started tattooing for money about 6 months before I got out of the Navy, I didn't keep a dime of my tattoo money. I gave it all to my mentors. And they didn't charge me for my apprenticeship. I did this voluntarily because I wanted to show them that I appreciated it. Now, not every apprenticeship goes like this. Some people walk into it with so much talent and such good mentors that they don't really have to go through all the bullshit. And I was never abused during my apprenticeship. I didn't see it as abuse. I'd been through boot camp. Once you've been through boot camp, tattoo apprenticeship isn't shit. But I came out of that thing and I started tattooing, valuing it, loving it. So anyways, that's my story. How about we hear yours?